So I'm here with Michelle. I'll have her introduce herself real quick.
Hey everybody, my name is Michelle Rollins and I am a certified therapeutic riding instructor at Maryland Therapeutic Riding in Crownsville, Maryland.
Awesome, thanks for that. So how did you get involved with this particular field?
Yeah, so I grew up riding horses back home in Arizona where I was raised. And then when I moved here to Maryland about 7 or 8 years ago, I actually just started volunteering at MTR because I was looking to meet people. I already knew horses, and so it seemed like a good place to build some community and do something that I loved. And through volunteering there, I actually learned that this was a career field of thing that I could actually be certified in and do something as a vocation rather than just a volunteer opportunity. So in some sense, it was a little bit by chance, but really just through experience by starting as a volunteer in the field.
Awesome. So what does a typical week look like?
So for me, I work part-time, so I'm only at the farm a couple days a week. But when I'm there, or for folks that work full-time in the industry, it's a variety of teaching lessons to people that have disabilities, whether private lessons, one-on-one, or groups. We do groups of 2 or 3 at MTR, and other facilities will do groups of up to 5 or 6 riders. And then there tends to be you think of it as maybe collateral pieces of the job. So helping to school horses, helping to train them in the field, working with parents, working with volunteers, kind of a lot of the side pieces of keeping a horse farm up and running. And then from a lessons perspective, we're doing things like lesson planning, reading rider files, thinking about how can I adapt the skill that I'm trying to teach to help the riders that I'm working with be successful. So there's a lot of off farm time spent really lesson planning in the same way that a teacher would, thinking about how can I make the time that I spend with my riders really effective and fun and useful.
Awesome. So what kind of training did you have to go through to become an instructor?
So most instructors are certified through an organization called PATH. It's the Professional Association for Therapeutic Horsemanship, and it's an international organization that provides certification, guidelines, kind of upkeep, continuing education, all of those things. PATH's certification requirements require mostly student teaching. So you student teach, I had a student teach 25 group lessons plus a number of one-on-one private lessons. Took about a year of student teaching, and then there's also like an education and knowledge component, everything from horse care to adaptive equipment to knowing about disabilities. What are the things that might stop a rider from being able to participate in mounted lessons? Those are the primary things. So really demonstrating your skill in the student teaching aspect, and then your knowledge through different courses, workshops, that kind of thing. Those two things come together to a certification event where you actually teach a lesson being observed by a couple of evaluators and have to meet certain criteria in order to pass that certification and become certified.
Okay, cool. Prior to this, what was like your educational background?
So I have a bachelor's degree in English, which doesn't help therapeutic riding really at all. But there's really no educational requirement to start as a therapeutic riding instructor. PATH requires you to be 18. So we occasionally have some folks who will come out of high school, become an adult, and start working in the field pretty quickly. But really, I think from a skills perspective in terms of education, being able to like identify tasks, identify the order of things, really helps being able to prepare lesson plans well. So there's some level of like the teacher preparation that you might get for teaching at a school or teaching a Sunday school class at a church or anything like that. Those skills kind of translate into the therapeutic riding world too.
Okay, cool. What's your favorite part about your job?
Oh gosh, being able to help people gain skills and practices that aren't just useful on the horse. So I get to teach riding skills. That's my job, right? To teach people how to ride a horse. But specifically because we're in therapeutic riding, the actual goal of me teaching riding skills isn't primarily that people could ride a horse really well at the end. That's goal and it's fun, but it's ultimately that they'll gain skills or strength or coordination or ability to follow directions or emotional control that will translate into their life away from the farm and away from the horses. And that's something that can be really, really significant. forever for our riders. And so being able to be a small part of something really important like that, and to be able to do it around horses, is a great combination.
Yeah, it definitely combines like all kinds of fun things,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think. Uh, Going off that, I guess, what's the most challenging part of your job?
Yeah, so because we work with people with disabilities, for many reasons, it's a lot harder and a lot slower than if I was teaching riding lessons to whoever wanted to come to a farm. And so sometimes it's more challenging in the instruction that I have to give because I have to think about that specific rider and the way that their body works or the way that their brain works, and try to help them make progress towards something that somebody who is typically developing or had no developmental disabilities, I know exactly how to say it to that person. But I have to think more strategically about how can I actually help this specific person in this instance with this horse and this team grow. And that can be really challenging. Um, and then the other side is, especially for some of our riders who have cognitive disabilities or maybe struggle with like emotional regulation, there's a behavior management aspect that sometimes they're just having a bad day and they can't, some of them aren't able to verbalize that. And it's frustrating for me because I know it's frustrating for them when they come in and have what feels like not a great experience. But,
Mhm.
um, through working with other instructors and having a team there, that really helps me to be able to bounce ideas off of people or um, to come up with different ways to make them those better. But it definitely has its good and bad days. It has its really big highs of really great things, and then it has days where you're like, man, we worked really hard, and I don't know what came out of that. I don't feel like we got anywhere. Um, so it's a little bit of an up and down, just because there's so much that can change day to day.
Yeah. So like, do you guys tend to keep the same horses with the same people just to build like that team aspect?
Yeah, so ideally, we have the same rider, we'll have the same horses, the same volunteers, the same instructor, and ride at the same time of day of the week, all that stuff. Each of our sessions, in part because there's so much value in having a team and familiarity and being able to build relationships with horses and with volunteers and with instructors. So occasionally we change it up, which can also be a good thing to have variety and to have different skills come in. And some of our strongest teams have been together for years.
Mhm.
And it's cool to see just the relationship they've built with their horse, or the relationship they've built with the volunteer that leads their horse or helps provide support as a sidewalker. Um, it can be really, really powerful and really fun.
Mhm. Awesome. So why did you choose this job as opposed to like another position that you could have had?
Yeah, so when I started as a volunteer at MTR, I was leading horses, I was sidewalking, so providing that physical support for riders. I was helping in the barn, I was kind of doing all of the things. And there were really a couple of pieces that pushed me specifically towards instruction. One is that I get to play such a specific and involved role in the life of our riders. So we need people who do all of those things, who
Mhm.
help lead horses, who care for them, who keep the fences up, who do all of those things. But I really love being able to have a rider that I have for 10 weeks, or I have for years. Some of my
Mhm.
riders I've taught for several years at this point, and being able
Yeah.
to see progress and change and being able to become friends with them, all of that stuff was kind of drew me specifically towards like, I want to be an instructor. I feel like that's the best place for me to serve. The other things that I like to teach. So even outside of being a therapeutic riding instructor, I enjoy teaching and learning and helping people, like the light bulb moment that happens
Yeah,
when
the
like
epiphany.
somebody gets something, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I love that feeling of being able to help people get to, oh, I never thought about it that way. And so translating that into the horse world seemed like a really natural place to land in that instructor role.
So what's your favorite type of horse and why?
Yeah, this is, man, such a great question. I've been thinking about it since you sent me this list, and I I can't decide because I like them all. I'll say two. So I grew up riding all sorts of different kinds of horses,
Mhm.
but a lot of quarter horses. They're versatile. They tend to be pretty easygoing. You can do
Mhm.
literally anything with them. I grew up out in Arizona, and so they do Western route stuff and ranch work, and they'll be in the hunter jumper rings and
Mhm.
a little bit of everything. And we actually tend to have a lot of quarter horses in therapeutic riding also, because they're that kind of steady, like sturdy. They can carry a lot of different kinds of riders. So I would have said that. My second and growing favorite is the Norwegian Fjord. We have two. Well, we had two. We had one just retire at
Mhm.
MTR. We still have one, Emma, there, and man, they are so smart. They're sturdy. They can get bored easily, and so it's a challenge for us as instructors and caretakers for the horses to keep them engaged and occupied. But because they're so smart, they can do all sorts of things that you wouldn't think they were able to do. Uh, so the opportunities for them in therapeutic riding, but also outside of therapeutic riding, are pretty endless. Also, they're short. I'm short. I'm kind of a pony rider for life, and so fjords, I fit them really, really well. And
Mhm.
sometimes those bigger horses, I look like a small child on them. So yeah, it doesn't really fit.
Yes.
I appreciate the kind of sturdy pony that even an adult like me can ride around.
Awesome. So is this what you saw yourself doing when you were younger?
Never. When I was like 9 or 10, I wanted to be a vet. I'd started riding horses. I thought horses were the greatest. I think I wanted to be a horse trainer at some point, although I don't think I really knew what that meant. Uh, I just thought it sounded cool when I was a
Yeah.
kid. Um, but I never anticipated that I would be an instructor as a career. I had a couple of great instructors growing up, which was really cool. I always
Mhm.
expected to be riding, but never really pictured myself reversing the role and being able to help teach others to ride. So it's been kind of a cool journey actually to just identify that as like, no, this is something that's really fun and something that I'd like to do, even though I didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah. And I think you get to do like a little bit of everything too, like
Yeah,
in this role.
yep, it's really diverse, and so it helps kind of keep your attention. You get to do all sorts of different pieces of the role.
Yeah. Variety is the spice of life.
Yes, ma'am.
So last question. What are the most important qualities someone should have in this position?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the greatest quality you can have is compassion, right? Especially in the therapeutic riding field, you're there um, to help people who had maybe not the easiest start in life, um, and sometimes have bad days, but who can have really, really incredible experiences through um, having the opportunity to build relationships with people, to do something that maybe they never saw themselves doing. And so the compassion and empathy to help people take that step is really, really key. I think therapeutic riding instructors, need to be folks who like to teach and like to learn, um, and like to help other people take steps of progress, even if it's slow. So there's some level of like patience that's kind of required in there. Um, and I think probably there's a whole list I could give you, but I'll just give you one more, which is decisive and able to make decisions. So as an instructor, I'm in charge of the entire lesson. If something goes wrong, I'm the person that has to know, here's how we're going to react, or here's how we're going to change course, or if it's raining, or if my rider comes in and has had a really bad day and we had this really like incredible challenging lesson plan and maybe we just need to go for a ride around the farm. All of those things I get to choose and decide on. um, and so having the ability kind of in the moment to say, here's the thing that's best, being willing to let go of the plan that I might have had, uh, but also sometimes knowing when to challenge and push a rider, um, to help them get to that next step. So that decisiveness and ability to make decisions based on, what's the best thing for this person today, uh, ultimately helps you be a really effective instructor. And then
Mhm.
you pick up all of the skills and the other things along the way. But
Yeah.
that kind of combination of compassion and decision making, ability to teach is kind of maybe the top key pieces.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's all I have for the questions.
All right.
Thanks so much, Michelle.
Yeah, you're welcome, Kendall. Absolutely.
Okay, I'll stop recording.